From the backstretch at Saratoga, this is Loose on the Lead with Steve Bick and Seth Merrill. Loose on the Lead is sponsored by
We're back on Loose on the Lead on this first Sunday of the Saratoga season. And as Seth mentioned, TRF Day and the quick call, we're going to do some Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation conversation with two fundraisers, two really nice stories. But I've also got to bring in one piece of news that broke in the last hour or so. Funny Side has passed after a colic bout, and Seth and I will talk about him. We'll talk about the Derby. We'll talk about the magic that was involved in Funny Side's run for the Triple Crown and all it did for the New York bred program. It's funny, I just happened to have had Jack Knowlton on the other day. And of course, Funny came up, and one of my partners at DT, Marty Shapiro, just went to visit him the other day, said he looked terrific. And colic in aging horses, their system thickens and tightens. And colic in a senior advanced age horse is very, very serious. It's serious at any time, but particularly with retirees and older horses. So thoughts to everybody, not just at Saratoga, but the countless fans. There is certainly a generation of horse player and fan that came to the game with Funny Side's run. So,
school bus, the whole story. Yeah,
exactly. Meanwhile, let's turn to Chris Carpenter and the long shot, the story of Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners Ben Bang, and turned into epic poetry. We were just talking about classics and timeless. This is sort of the Epic of Gilgamesh, except that it's a filly.
It is, and it's funny. This all started as just a poem. Me being a little bit of a sap with this horse, being my first horse ever. I wrote a poem the night before the race, and she was the long shot on the line, on the morning line, and so it wasn't ever written to be a children's book because I didn't mention anything about her winning in that poem, and went out the next day and won the race, and it was pretty special moment.
It turned into the long shot. There's so many fun parts of it, including the local artist, Dave Papa, whose wonderful illustrations are going to also excite. I can tell you that we had Chris on radio earlier in the week, and Tina went out to see our grandchildren, our 3-year-old granddaughter, listened to it 6 times at least, maybe 8. Absolutely loved it. Your story is also fun because, of course, Chris, a retired Major League Baseball player, spending time with the Red Sox, the Cubs, and as we fleshed out the other day, the Tokyo Yakult Swallows.
That's right.
And then here you end up becoming a fan of the game. Explain your sports journey in general and your gravitation into becoming a partner at Eclipse and becoming so avid a fan that you were moved to write this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a small town kid from Ohio. I grew up in a town of 2,000 people. Not many major leaguers come from small farmland in Ohio, but was fortunate enough to make my way up through the ranks of the minor leagues, and finally in 2011 made my debut in Chicago. And so, while I wasn't a long time, I had my cup of coffee for a couple years, but was fortunate to get there, and I experienced the grind to make it to that top level, and appreciated all the work to get to that top level. And so fast forward to 2021, when I had some family friends in Arkansas, where my wife is from, talk to me about the horse racing industry, and they had been fortunate enough to be part of some very, very good horses, one being Animal Kingdom. And I guess if you're going to be part of a horse, that's not a bad one to be a part of. So they were a part of Animal Kingdom, kind of were telling me a little bit about the industry, and kind of if you wanted to get involved, maybe just tiptoe into it, learn the industry, try to educate yourself, and you never go to the track expecting to win. Just you're building relationships, you're meeting great people, and that's kind of what I did, and that was really the the synopsis of this poem that I wrote. It was just a thank you to this horse who had put in a lot of work, and was not a lot was expected from this horse, and it was just a thank you to get us there, and then it goes out and wins.
And again, the horse is Ben Bang, and I pulled up the lifetime record on Equibase last night and did win the first start right up here at Saratoga back in 2021. And it sounds like from your story, up until 3 or 4 years ago, you weren't related to horse racing at all. You kind of got pulled in just recently.
Just recently. I wasn't related to riding. I wasn't related to horse racing. So all of this is very new to me. Amazing. But the amazing people that I've met along this journey, it's, I will forever cherish all of it. So,
I'm curious, were you here for
we actually, it had got the first couple times that it got rained off, the race had not been carted. Then once it was rained off. And so we did not make the trip because the card, I think it was 2 cards that didn't get filled. And so I was actually in my living room watching the race, and as it was coming out, my wife videoed it, which I try to keep that video undercover. My wife I got tears running down my face, just a smile on my face. It was a wonderful moment.
Chris's wife is from Hot Springs, and so
is.
I mean, absolutely. Don't have to tell anybody locally. Virtually a sister city to Saratoga. The scenario is almost identical. If you've never been to Hot Springs, put it on the list. Who made the connection? Explain how the poem morphed itself into the book. And of course, one of the parts of this is that proceeds from the book are going to TRF. But make those connections and getting it published, and then tell the story about Dave Papa, the street artist that is responsible for the fabulous artwork.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, I wrote the poem the night before. I sent it to 2 people. I sent it to Aaron Wellman, and I sent it to the Salvo family who live here in Saratoga, and we're also a part of Ben Bang. And Aaron immediately sends me back, can I send this out to the partnership? And so when Ben Bang won the next day, it was funny, all the partners were telling me that I now need to be the poet for every race.
Poet laureate.
They need it, yes, the poet laureate of Eclipse. So that is how kind of the story got out. With Dave, we used to buy paintings when we would come to Saratoga. We loved his work on the streets right in front of Suave Fair. He would always paint on the streets, and his little touch is he would let your kids take the brush and make a little bit of a mark on the painting. And so my kids love to take the brush, and sometimes the mark's a little bigger than probably it should be, but they would love that part. And so we came back the following year after the race, and it was actually my wife's idea to ask him, it would be a great fit for him being a Saratoga connection to be the illustrator of a book written about something that happened in Saratoga.
And the publishing portion of it?
So the publishing portion of it, was really my wife and I. We've kind of put this all together. I mean, she is amazing at this stuff. Being kind of her media background has helped me. We had, she has editors that she knows that, she's helped put this together. But really, this has just kind of been a Carpenter team effort that we all have come together and put this book together.
How'd you get involved with the TRF and some of the proceeds going? That aftercare has become such a major issue in the game over the last few years. It's great that some of the proceeds are going, but how'd you make the tie-in?
Yeah, so Kelsey Marshall with Eclipse is on the board of the TRF, and it was a pretty easy, connection to make, being a part of Eclipse and knowing how big of a role she had in the TRF. And the biggest thing is I wanted to make sure I understood what the TRF did before, I know I'm only doing a small part for retirement of these wonderful creatures, but so I visited the correctional facility that the TRF has in South Carolina. I wanted to just fully understand what, the proceeds are going to, and it's a wonderful program that does amazing stuff, not only for the horses, but for inmates and, rebuilding them and kind of giving them and the horses a second chance.
Yeah, very good. let people know where they can get the book. If we have a lot of people obviously watching in the area, but via YouTube and whatnot, people are all over the place watching. So how can people get the long shot?
Absolutely. Well, if you come to the track today, I'm going to be over in the TRF tent over by the entrance. I would love to meet everybody and talk to everybody. I will be signing the books. You can buy your copy over there. If you would like to buy it online, it will be online on either the TRF's website, on their store, or on Amazon. Or Barnes & Noble online would have it as well.
Very good. And now that you have one under your belt, anything planned on the writing side of things in the future?
I don't know. I feel like I'm a better writer when it just comes to me freely and not thinking about I have to write something. So we'll see if something else comes.
And I'm curious, after Ben Bang, are you involved in other horses?
We do have a couple horses right now. We actually have one that is scheduled to run, fingers crossed, next week here. We won't be here, but it's a filly named Fizzy. So kind of keeping our eye on her.
All right, and give us your impressions of as a new horse racing fan, your impressions of the Saratoga experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an amazing place. People don't understand until you get here just how special this place is. It's almost like you kind of go back in time. Mm-hmm. And Steve, you were perfect at talking about Hot Springs and the connection of Hot Springs, and the two cities have a very, very similar feel.
It also occurs to me, and I didn't bring this up with you this past week on radio, but it does occur to me that you played in Fenway and Wrigley Field, which your two home ballparks as a major leaguer have the same historic presence and tradition that Saratoga has in that regard.
100%. I mean, if you had to pick two historic ballparks to call home, Wrigley and Fenway would definitely be up there. And feel very blessed to have the opportunity to have played at both of those parks.
And you talk about major leaguers you don't think of for small towns in Ohio, but what about the guy pitching to Robert Redford in the Natural? Wasn't he kind of corn-fed? Right, the big guy. Yes, I think they described him as being a country boy. So it's not unknown.
People may want to actually go beyond the movie and actually read,
which is about 100.
read Bernard Malamud's actual.
I, however, am a big fan of the movie, but I kind of like the Frank Capra ending. I have to admit.
It's not Capra-esque in the book.
No, and not.
Sorry to spoil the ending, but there's no spoiling the ending of The Long Shot. She wins. I'm going to give it away.
She wins. She wins,
and it's a winner. Chris Carpenter, everybody, and Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, and the wonderful poem. You don't mention her by name. That's obviously by design.
It is by design because, my big thing is this was a story about Ben Bang, but this is kind of a story about just anybody that's coming to the track. Anybody owning a horse. I mean, this was my Kentucky Derby. July 29th,
so far.
2021. This was my Kentucky Derby, and it was kind of the everyday person's, long shot horse. Most of the horse racing world didn't care about this horse, but it was my, pride and joy.
Can we get the wife to tweet out the video?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll just tag you guys in it.
Chris Carpenter, everybody. Let's do this. We got to take the break for the change.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, an equally fabulous story about a fundraiser. It's local. It's got everything. It's got a kid. It's a home run. Stay with us. Back after this. Loose on the Lead. Lee Einseidler joins us later as well as another fair. Here's a poem. You got to write a poem now about Casa Creed. There's alliteration. There's all kinds of stuff. That's a natural, actually. 7-year-old. That's your next project.
Okay.
Back after this. Capital OTB. Loose on the Lead.